$10 drive-through car wash every weekend only at Airpark Canterbury, parking island off Russley Road.
Time for Politics Friday, and joining us this morning is Christchurch East MP Reuben Davidson and Ilam MP Hamish Campbell. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Chris, and congratulations on your 230,000 followers.
Thank you very much. Very nice of you to say so. Reuben, let me start with you. The Canterbury Museum, I mean, I used to go there as a child. It's a great place, but I couldn't help but think, really, we've got the director now calling out for another $50 million from ratepayers and taxpayers. If this was the private sector, he'd be a Gomberger.
Yeah, potentially, although there are lots of examples of central government bailing out big business in different contexts. I think the important thing here is that it's not a business; it's a museum, and it has and hosts a very important collection and plays a very important part. I certainly wouldn't think that council or central government should just simply hand over $25 million each, but I do think that there's a conversation that needs to happen there about why it's needed and what it's needed for.
Don't disagree with that. Hamish, what do you make of this? Because it does seem like all these public projects always skyrocket and can never live within their original projections.
Hey, look, I probably agree with Reuben here that I think it's a great institution. I remember the horse when you used to walk down the streetscape. Look, it's an important part of...
Is that still there? I wonder, that horse thing.
Well, everything's in storage at the moment, but I don't think there's been a formal request made to central government. But any funding request would have to go through quite a rigorous progress or program to make sure that we're getting bang for buck and the goals are going to be met.
I definitely think there's a conversation like both of you say, but it's something about these government enterprises where I don't understand why they can't keep within a budget. I realise prices escalate and skyrocket, but once again, I am going to point to the private sector here. If this was a private sector company and it needed an extra $50 million, and the project manager would take the blame for that, Reuben.
Yeah, look, I think things do go over budget in the private sector and the public sector. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I don't think anyone's immune to the rising costs of the kinds of things that are required for projects of this scale. And the other thing is that the standards with which you need to modernise the buildings and facilities so that you can keep this collection, which I think is estimated at, I can't remember exactly, but for some reason I think it's about $1 billion. So I could be wrong on that, but it is a priceless collection ultimately. And so making sure that you can protect that and look after it for not just us to enjoy the horse in Canterbury Street, but for people in future generations to enjoy that and more, it does require completion.
And I think part of that collection is actually the world's largest skeleton of a blue whale. So we do have some unique pieces at the museum.
Yeah, I agree. I just was thinking, taking back to my childhood, when you enter the museum, you go through the first Māori division or department, there was that lovely, soft, high-pitched noise. It was very soothing. Do you remember that? It was a very light, kind of soothing noise. It was very nice.
I can't really recall that, but I think there's probably a whole range of key stakeholders that probably could be engaged to help with this as well. So I think we need to look wider than just central and local government for funding.
I need to move on. Christchurch property developer Anthony Goff launched a rather scathing attack on council yesterday at a deputation regarding their draft annual plan, saying that essentially over the past 10 years his rates have gone up 100%, but his rates in his bar don't. They go up maybe 2.5% each year. He had a point saying the council is essentially squeezing out businesses. They may seem great now, and that's true, but if the council continues to increase its rates for businesses, it might put many businesses out of action. Hamish, what do you make of that comment?
Well, look, I think this is a local government issue, and I think the council does need to be careful to make sure that they're focusing on things that they need to be focusing on. We want a vibrant city centre because the thing is, Christchurch has the highest level of domestic migration at the moment. We're seeing people from Auckland, Wellington coming down to Christchurch, and we want to make sure that we can actually retain those businesses so we can actually have a vibrant hub in the middle of our city. And I think kind of by the time we have the Court Theatre finished, we have the stadium completed, the Metro Sports centre, I think we've got a whole lot of really positive things happening in the city. And so I think we need to be trying to encourage businesses in the city rather than kind of pushing them out.
Reuben, that's a fair point. We do need to encourage these businesses because we might have a big blob in the middle of the city that's going to bring people to the stadium every so often, but you still need those businesses surrounding it, don't we?
Yeah, you do. And I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm going to agree a little with Hamish here too. And I think that this is a local government issue. The balance needs to be struck between making sure that a busier city and the city council being responsible for a busier city, they have the appropriate contributions from stakeholders to be able to manage that. But it does also need to allow businesses to continue to do well, because otherwise they might not continue. But the other offer to Mr. Goff and anyone else who's not happy with prospective rate rises in the central city is come out to New Brighton. We'd love to have some new vibrant hospitality business.
Very good point. Yes, I'll give you that. What a well put statement. I want to move on to this notion of regional boards to try and get Christchurch's transport flows moving along. This, of course, is a government bill to try and help the transport flows within our city. Council was discussing the idea of congestion charges. I can see this going down like a cup of cold, I was going to say soup. Soup's okay. Hamish, what do you make of that?
Look, I think Christchurch probably is not too bad in the traffic space, to be perfectly honest. I think we have some great roads here. This is a bill that's going through Parliament. It's open for public submissions at the moment, so people can go on and to the Parliament website and make submissions to have their voices heard. But it is also about planning for the future. Currently, we might be all right, but as our city grows, congestion may be an issue. So we actually need all the tools in the toolbox to be able to deal with it. But this is a far than a done deal, and we're asking for submissions.
Yeah, it is just a proposal at this stage for a bill. Reuben, though, I did notice in the fine print, though, you could say that the Transport Minister could get to veto any decisions made by this proposed regional board. Is that a good or a bad thing when the Prime Minister yesterday said to me, well, we've got to make sure that if there are decisions being made that are a bit dumb, that Christchurch residents don't want, we can make those decisions. I mean, look, that's not a bad call in the great scheme of things when you think about what's going on with some of Christchurch's transport issues now that appear to be going through a bit of a backlash. Your thoughts?
Look, it smells a bit like me. It doesn't smell a bit like me. It smells to me.
I was wondering where you're going with that.
Got to get that one right. It smells like a new tax, right? So at a time when people are facing cost of living pressures, all of a sudden there's this suggestion that central government, when you get stuck in traffic in Christchurch, central government are going to be putting their hand in your back pocket and pulling out some of your hard-earned cash. And that doesn't seem right to me at all. So I think that it would be very hard to find anyone in Christchurch who wants to pay for the privilege of being stuck in traffic and who wants to be paying Wellington for that privilege. These are local issues. Central government needs to support local government, but not come in over the top of them and tell them how to do things.
Go ahead, Hamish.
It probably is actually a tax on time and productivity. And the thing is, we want to make sure that Christchurch can flow freely. We want to make sure we can have people in Ralston or kind of Kaiapoi, Woody End being able to come into the city quickly and efficiently, because of course that means that we actually have more land to build houses, and I think that is a really important thing that we do, that we actually kind of create an environment where we can actually get things done.
Okay, Reuben, this is quite an important question given it created a little bit of controversy earlier online. Is Christchurch City then getting its fair share of money from the government when it comes to transportation needs?
No, it's absolutely not. It's not getting even its own contribution, and it's also getting re-gifted. So it's been given money once, then that money's disappearing, and then that money's being re-announced, and we're expected to be grateful for having funding diverted rather than receiving new funding.
There's nothing worse than a re-gift, is there, Hamish?
Oh, look, I think the Mayor was on your show yesterday and said that they got $90 million more they actually asked for. So I think we need to take this into context. I appreciate the previous government, just a couple of months before the election, promised $78 million. Some might say it's pork barrel politics. The council struggled to be able to even access that money, so it was reprioritised. But then again, when you look what we're actually receiving, Brougham Street, the Ashburton Bridge, with the Pegasus, Wood End bypass. So there's a whole lot, and even the Pages Road Bridge. So there's a number of projects that are going ahead. So I think when you look at the overall, Phil has said that there's $90 million extra than they asked for.
Reuben, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head, Chris, because I think the difference here is that Hamish is calling it redistribution. I'm calling it regifting. The Pages Road Bridge is an $80 million project. It's at about 10% of the National Building Code. It's a vital lifeline for New Brighton, and central government want to be congratulated for tipping $6.5 million into that project. It's an $80 million project. That's not even a 10% contribution. And instead, they're playing Siegfried and Roy, which is all illusion and all magic, with the funding that should be coming to Christchurch for vital transport infrastructure.
How much more funding do you think we should be getting, Reuben?
For the Pages Road Bridge, or in general?
In general, for Christchurch's transport needs, what would make you happier?
Well, more money would make me happier, but I think ultimately for the Pages Road Bridge, it should be a 50% cost share at least with central government, and currently it's less than 10%. But also, Christchurch and Christchurch residents contribute a large amount of funding to transport, and that does not proportionately get spent in Christchurch. So we are financing roads in other places where we should be investing in infrastructure for ourselves.
That's a fair point, isn't it, Hamish, given the fact that the former chair of ECAN said the same thing in, I think, September last year, saying that, it being the second largest city, we're really not getting our fair share of the pie.
Look, and it comes back to Phil saying they actually got more money than they actually asked for. But I think it's really important to actually note that we've received a lot of money for our infrastructure post-earthquakes, and that actually there's been an investment in our roads and infrastructure. We have great roads, whether it's the Southern Motorway, whether it's the Northern Corridor. And so there is going to be fluctuations in the amount of money that we get over different times. And it does depend on the allocation based on need. We know some other roads around the country are in dire strait, so there is going to be
Christchurch East
and what Canterbury gets.
Christchurch East, as you say,
down
Reuben.
Maces Road lately. I mean, we've got roads that are in really bad states of repair in this city, and we have a number in Christchurch East that urgently need repairs so that they're actually safe for people to use.
And
that would
a
be
lot of
nice,
local roads are actually a local council issue. Central government does make contributions, but of course it does come back to the council doing their job and fixing up the roads.
Just quickly, Donald Trump's tariffs, 10% for New Zealand exporters. Does this mean, Reuben, we need to be doing a little bit more to help our local companies out? When I was speaking to the Prime Minister yesterday, he was downplaying how bad it could be. But, I received a lot of press releases from, the meat industry, the wool industry, a lot of different exporters saying they are concerned. I mean, having said that, we are going to be playing on probably an even playing field with some of our counterparts in the world. We're not as bad off as, say, China. Still, what do you make of all this? Locally, is it going to push up the prices for some of the stuff that we see in the supermarkets, maybe?
It has that potential, but I think it's also evident that a head-down strategy just has not worked for this government, right? So pretending it wasn't going to happen hasn't worked. And earlier engagement with some of the people who are putting out the press releases now saying, help what's happening, would have been a much better way to tackle this.
Hamish?
That's a load of rubbish. We have been engaging very constructively. We are one of the lower countries with the lowest tariffs there is. You need to look at Europe. That's a 20% tariff. So comparatively, we're actually well placed. Yes, no tariff is great, but we may actually have a competitive advantage here since some of the other countries have a higher tariff rate. Well, we know the US has some of their lowest beef numbers since the 60s. So the thing is, they're going to need some of our products. We have a fairly balanced trade with the US. And so, yes, not great, but I don't think it's going to be the doom and gloom that some people suggest. But once again, this is the reason why, as a government, we've been getting out around the world to make sure we can shore up trade agreements. You can see the UAE, the Gulf states. Of course, we're working on one with India. So it's all about making sure we can diversify our export markets. And I think what we want to do is double the value of exports by 2030. And I think we're doing an excellent job getting there.
Okay, just finally, I know you gentlemen are always busy over the weekends. I do like going to both your social media pages and seeing how well both you are engaged in your communities. So there must be something on that you're doing. Reuben, what's up this weekend for you?
Oh, there's a lot on this weekend, but a very special shout out to the residents of Emmett Street in Shirley. There's a celebration for the trees that are going to disappear from that community happening on Sunday. So 20 really big, beautiful, mature oaks are going to be cut down because they're interfering with power lines. And so the community have come together, come up with a plan, and they're going to have a party to not celebrate the loss of the trees, but to share the plan for what that community will do together in the future.
That's such a shame. They are so beautiful. I saw another photo, I think, on one of those Shirley Village pages, and gee, they are beautiful trees. But then, when I took a drive down there, they are really much in the way of those power lines. It is a shame. Hamish, what about you? Just briefly.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be out and about in the Harewood area, so making sure that I meet a lot of constituents. So if you're in the Harewood area, make sure you come up and say hello. There's disability sports at Burnside High School between 10 and 1. So there's a whole range of things going on. Really looking forward to the weekend.
Excellent. Gentlemen, have a great weekend. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Chris.